Welcome to That Card Collectors Podcast with your host, Ian Taylor.
Welcome, everybody, to That Card Collectors Podcast. My name is Ian. With me this week is Josh.
What it is
Jason.
Hello.
And our good friend,
Utiniii.
Greg McLaughlin from the
Hello.
Rebel Base Card Podcast. Welcome. I'm having so much fun with these sound effects of late. Greg.
love
It's-
dialing it in.
Yeah, I've got some new ones for this week. Can you tell?
I have sound effect envy.
Sound effects envy. Well, you too
Yes.
can get sound effects. I'll send you the files actually. Now you've got so many good sound effects on your podcast. So let me just quickly read something out to you. So Greg, you are here because it's always nice to have you on, quite frankly, and it's been
Thank
long
you.
overdue. But we had a comment on a recent episode on Spotify from a guy called jonahtattoo. I don't know if it's his actual name or his internet name. But anyway, jonahtattoo commented, "I really enjoy your show. Thanks for the work you put into it. It would be awesome if you could do an episode on Star Wars cards. The new Galaxy set from Topps were absolutely gorgeous cards." So I replied, "Thanks so much for listening. Yes, we usually leave the Star Wars to our good buddy Greg at the Rebel Base Card Podcast, but I'll ask him on to talk about this and other Star Wars sets." And here we are.
Yes, and I think that same comment would go for my show. They would like to say, "We really like your show if you talk about cards on occasion." And so that's why I had to come to another podcast to talk about the stuff that I should be talking about on my podcast.
Well, yeah, fair enough. To be fair, it is your show. You can do what you bloody well want.
Right.
I appreciate
So
that.
yeah. So I just for those who don't know. So Greg, you're in Chicago,
Yes.
and what this is something that I didn't know about you until relatively recently. Is that you have a bit of a foot in both worlds, because although obviously you do non-sports and specifically Star Wars, which is why you've got your own Star Wars trading card podcast, but you also do some sports. So tell us about your kind of your crossover into those. Just give people who might not know about you and your history and your podcast the kind of the potted Greg timeline of how you and cards intersect.
Fair enough. And this is where later on you'll see the analytics of the stream drop off right after I start talking about this. But I would say that it was Star Wars cards that really got my interest in baseball and football from Topps. I mean, I came from a one intersection town, one traffic light. We had a little pharmacy that sold your comics, your candy. And, although I had dabbled, I remember getting the 1976 King Kong set. Yeah, it was Star Wars cards because, they put it at that level where kids can see it. And then I think once I started collecting the Star Wars cards, and then once they kind of passed in between films, baseball kind of filled in that gap, as well as I was playing the last time I actually played organized baseball was in Little League. And, you kind of like, you're starting to see sports on TV and things like that. And I think I've always sort of kept, I've always gone back and forth into baseball. It's a much larger animal with much more variance and so forth. But, it's hard, even though if I quit, I kind of go back because I do like seeing, recently they just announced what the top Series 1, 2026 flagship will look like and the design and all that. And that comes out in February.
Wow.
They've already started pre-orders about that with the first, and, there's two big series of like 350 cards each. But of late, when Topps acquired, when Fanatics acquired the licenses for basketball and football away from Panini last fall, they launched their first kind of flagship basketball that had, the players and their logos. And my son actually played against there's a fella in the league, Max Christie. He plays with the Dallas Mavericks. He was in on that Luka trade with the Lakers because he was drafted by the Lakers. But when my son played, Max is a year maybe younger. So I started collecting Max's base card from that 2025 basketball set, and there are like some 56 variants of that base card, because tops because tops. So yeah, that the reaction is well noted and appropriate. So I've got about 25 different ones now. Because they Tops goes at it with that fervor of like, we can do all the stuff. You can do a holiday, you can do a wood, you can do all different kinds, and then you can have variants that only show up in Costco, only show up in hanger boxes, only show up in hobby boxes, retail. Like take what Upper Deck does and just put it, and it goes to 11. So that's been kind of a fun chase, and also because with like Topps flagship baseball or Topps flagship basketball, you can find the cards out there in the wild. And it's not because I don't love collecting Star Wars cards, and I do, but I have to get, I just got, the set, like a full set of the 2025 Galaxy, from a friend of mine who'd gotten a case, because that's how I can get a hold of them, because I don't have that kind of money, folks, because Star Wars cards is getting expensive. But I would say I enjoy, like, I'll go to my local card shop for, National Hockey Card Day, because it's kind of fun, and you can support your local store when they have National Baseball Card Day. I like an excuse to go to a card store, and it is kind of fun. And I would say, there are many different models. I mean, sports cards are a huge animal. Maybe pales in comparison to Pokemon now, but that's a whole other story. Don't get me started on that, because I will. But baseball is something I kind of like going back to, although the hard part is it's just so many that you have to get. But last weekend, just to finish out, a friend of mine gave me a full box of 1989 baseball, and that thing was heavy, and I was flying. So I'm like, you've just basically doubled the size, the weight of my bag. But it was fun. The whole box is worthless, but there were some notable rookies in there, and I know that Randy Johnson has a rookie card in there, and I want to say Dante Bichette, sorry, Bo's dad, has one in there, and there were some fun rookies in there, and I spent a Sunday morning just kind of going through, and it was great, for a $5 box of 729 cards. It was a hoot, and remembering back when I was much younger, had hair, and still that just the beginning of that junk wax era.
It's interesting you mentioned a national day there. Apropos of nothing, when I was starting up my computer, Microsoft decided to remind me that today, apparently, as we record, is National Winnie the Pooh Day. What nation I think they're talking about, I don't know. So I kind of went and looked it up. I asked Dr. Google, what national day is it today? And apparently it's also National Peking Duck Day, National Thesaurus Day, and finally, National Michigan Day. So, yeah, who knew? I mean, if National Michigan Day, surely that would only be a Michigan Day for Michigan people. I'm not sure people in Florida are celebrating National Michigan Day.
No, probably.
I only thought they celebrated that if they beat OSU during their annual, the OSU Michigan. I'm from Ohio originally, so it's not that often, but they do beat it.
I glaze because I just don't know. I just don't know the references. It kind of just makes me want to say this to you, Greg.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerve herder.
Any excuse to put in a Star Wars sound effect. I've prepared for this episode. Can you tell, Greg? So what I would love to know. Well, first of all, I would say that Greg runs the Rebel Base Card podcast. You've just dropped episode 200, although I know you've done over 300 because you kind of do these other episodes where you kind of focus.
It's all timey-wimey.
That you focus on the shows. So you do Rebels and Acolyte and Andor and all those sort of stuff, the Breakfast Pack shows. So in total, you're up to over 300 now. So I reference that partly because it occurs to me that this, dear listeners, will be episode 250 when you take into season 1 and season 2 into account. So that's surely worth a guest of Greg's caliber. But I was The reason I thought of you for this episode when Jonah was asking is because I'd actually like to know oh, hang on a minute.
The force is strong in this one.
It's Wesley.
Yeah.
Here he is.
Hey.
Here he is.
There he
With the
is.
swoosh.
He's made
Looking
it. He
good,
looks
looking good.
vexed.
Oh man, let me
He looks
guess. I
vexed.
can't hear.
Oh no, he can't hear us.
Out of all this,
No. Oh no. Anyway, Wesley's arrived, everybody. We'll keep going. So I like the fact that he's put on his thing. Wesley, the late guy. ...
Webby vision.
Anyway, so
First of all, I
Greg.
can't hear you guys, but I just want
Greg.
you to know that I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you very much. So, Greg, I don't know the answer to this question in terms of Star Wars. I've kind of lost track of what's happening now. I do listen to your podcast, but I don't listen to it as religiously as I'd like to do. And I'm probably behind on some of the homestead keeping, as you call it, where you do those wonderful updates of what's happening, what's coming out, what the formats will be, how much it will be, all that sort of stuff. So,
It's a good idea.
and it is actually, and Greg's far more on it than me. We start an episode and we think we've heard half a bit of news about something, and we might talk about it and realise we know nothing about it whatsoever. So as a resource, we're pretty useless on that front, and I hold my hand up to that, except when we've got an actual sell sheet to work through, in which case we're pretty good. But so Greg, what's kind of happening? I've got a couple of questions here, and I guess some of them kind of merge. But what's been the big releases this past year? What kind of things have happened? Because I think Star Wars has done similar to what Topps and Fanatics are doing with Marvel, is that they're no longer kind of doing sets that are focused on properties. They've kind of seemed to have stepped away from that. They're more kind of compendium and cross-universe sets. Would that be fair to say?
I would say since about 2023 was probably one of the last big release years for Topps Star Wars, and that mainly in terms of body count. Because I would say between about 2015, as we got into the sequel trilogy, through about 2022, like as we kind of got through what they'd probably put in production during COVID, there were a number of releases. But I would say in the last couple years, Topps / Fanatics. Now Topps was bought by Fanatics in the beginning of 2022. So some of those 2022 sets in 2023, they were probably already discussed, planned out, and so forth. But over the last few years, you could really see a lot more chrome go into Star Wars. They got really chrome crazy, and then as some of these like the online, like the living set kind of died. They stopped kind of doing a lot of online sets like the living set, like Throwback Thursday, like any kind of show tie-in, which blew my mind because I thought
you had the episode releases, didn't you, with Mandalorian?
Exactly,
and seasons, yeah.
And because those were print on demand, you're printing money. But I think that to bring them in line with what more Fanatics is used to, or what Topps Sports is used to, or what the bros who run Fanatics and Topps now are used to, are these the chrome sapphire, chrome blacks. They did keep, and I think only because Galaxy, to me, one of the last normal Galaxy releases, Galaxy Chrome, which first came out in 2021, I think it was the 9th release, hit at the right time. I think it was one of the last hobby boxes I was able to buy at a normal price, around like I think 120, 150 bucks. But it blew up, and I think the card folks, especially on the sports side, and I think you alluded to this in your last episode, where they like the portrait type cards, and sports guys, they didn't really care too much about if you were doing a theme, like let's say, hey, we're gonna look at like bounty hunters, or all these kind of like set pieces or scenes from different films and so forth. That didn't really jive. They tended to like, hey, whose rookie or debut card is coming out over the last couple years with the chrome releases. You've had these debut medallions that kind of are like the rookie card, and the atomic, the superfractors where the parallels. And so over the last 2 or 3 years, I think those are the big trends in Star Wars where they're a lot more chrome. They've done some high-end sapphire releases, although since they've done that over the last couple of years, it's been a law of diminishing returns. I think each year the sapphire ones have come out to less and less acclaim. But the 2025, I think one of the biggest ones, Galactic Antiquities, came out in February, and it was a $1,500 MSRP box that
Oh my
I
goodness.
think it was $1,500 for like a minute. And then it all of a sudden went to double and almost triple. Like you see people that were selling them for $5,000. And this was a very high end, I think one of the most expensive sets I've ever seen done, where there was still a base set, but you had like really big hits. There was an oversized sketch card, and you can still find them out there. It's just the price is ridiculous. But I would say that higher end sets, not just masterwork, which used to kind of be the Marvel Masterpiece kind of way, where it was like there was an year end, very high end. I mean, we also had stellar signatures. You'd have these little one-offs that were more for the higher end collectors, but there's really less and less you'll even find in retail. So the Topps Chrome of the last 2 years, and then Flagship before that, they tried that for a year. That they didn't seem to like that very much. So they've kind of stopped maybe catering a lot to retail. They've catered a lot more to the upper, the breaker type collection. You'll see the Breakers Delight boxes and
The whatnot crowd.
Yeah, the whatnot crowd. That the box that delights no one except those who can afford to get them in large allocations. But that's kind of been it. I mean, you'll still find there was still a number of releases, but far less that. Like, for example, one of the reasons why I talk a little less about it is because I would figure that my audience is sort of the casual to serious, but I can't in good faith tell someone to go spend $300 to $500 on a box for maybe an auto, or maybe I'm like, no, I can't do that in good faith, because I not only can I not afford it myself, but I don't think that's the way to go. And that's not the passion that I have, and that I would hope to maybe like inspire in somebody else. That's why, when I find a box of Star Wars vehicles from 1997 at a local toy store and they're selling them for $4 or $5 a pack, I'm like, this is great, or Young Indie Chronicles for $1 a pack. I'm like, yes, I'm all over that, man. So yeah, it's tough. So it's definitely, the market's changed. I still like picking it up. I did, like I said, picked up a base set of Galaxy 2025. Was very happy about that. I know some of the people who worked in the artwork for that. And the other last thing, I've been very happy over the last few years that sketch cards are still incredibly viable. Artists, even though that Topps changed the structure, they can't have APs for Star Wars, but they did increase the rate that they'll pay artists. I'm incredibly happy that they're getting the work, that they're getting noticed, and that they are embracing whatnot. I know that I've talked to an artist who said, like, you know what, why am I schlepping to cons when I can go on whatnot and make like what I could make in a weekend in a couple of nights? And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. I'm very happy that's out there. It's just on the collector side, I just can't find where their pieces are or get them without a large influx. And so it's definitely some changes. But with the 50th anniversary of Star Wars coming up next year, and Mando and Grogu coming in theaters this spring, it's going to be very interesting to see what Topps does in this year.
Can I just rewind slightly? You mentioned a Galaxy set that came out
December.
No, not the 2025 one. The one you mentioned that was the 9th one or something, Galaxy Chrome.
Oh yeah, 2021.
2021. Was that the one that was reprinting artwork from previous years? Wasn't there a Galaxy set that reprinted previous years? But in
yes,
format?
And I know that my friend Ben Abusada had his 2018 Galaxy card reprinted. That might have been it, because I know that one of them did a lot of reprinting of previous ones. And the reason my memory is fading, because since there have been 5 Chrome Galaxy releases, 2021 through 2025. And I know that 2022 was the one that, for whatever reason, decided not to print the artist name on it.
That's right.
And
That's
it was
right.
not a well-received
But
release.
that was a reprint as well, because I remember we talked about it on the podcast. Yeah.
They have for the most part, like this last one, there was new art as well as the archives, which is always sort of the case with the Galaxy releases. They were always, like there was always like a combination of new art and old art. But yeah, now I'm trying to remember whether it was, I can't remember if it was 2021, but I do remember one of those releases, one of those 5 releases, they did have a lot of reprints, and they didn't let the artists know that they were doing it. And so all of a sudden, but yeah, there have been a lot.
Yeah.
So now we're up to 13 Galaxy releases if you're playing the home.
Okay. So the 2025 one then, and it sounds to me like this might have been the case for 2024 and maybe 2023. So that is back to new artwork, because I know, like the original, like the first Star Wars Galaxy, I've only got the first 3, and they were always a mix of the new stuff. At the time it was new, because it's what 94, 95, 96, somewhere around there. And then you had like poster art and Ralph McQuarrie stuff and things like that. So you always had that kind of blend. So this 2025 one that you've just held up a couple of times, that I think is kind of Jonah was kind of referencing there on the message. That's kind of, they're back to original art for at least a good portion of the set.
Yes, I would say that there were a number of artists in there. I was just looking because I know Dave Dorman has some artwork in this, although they are previously stuff done. He has some of his Dark Empire covers and whatnot. I know Brian Rude had one in here. Joe Caroni has an insert set that was all new art. It's one of the few times where I'm like, okay, in addition to the base cards, I'm all after that, because I see Joe a couple times a year, usually because he makes the con circuit. But I would say that what I liked about this one is in the new art, you've got art from the TV shows, and so you have some Mandalorian, you have some ones in there. I thought that was really cool because we've got our Grogu cards, and it's not just playing the hits. Although I have no idea what their choice were, because it goes all over the board. I mean, it's like OG prequel, trilogy, sequel. Like, for example, here's one from the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show. Here's an Obi-Wan there.
A nice card.
And this very next one card is Grievous. So I'm like, I don't know what they were, why, but it's really cool. I was trying to think.
You always had that blend with the original, though. You had less road to swerve over.
I like that.
Is that?
Yeah, it's a
this
nice
is
card.
a Dave Dorman. It's probably one of the.
Oh, nice.
It looks like a cover. It's probably one of the book covers, because this is Wedge Antilles on it, and there's a lot of open space at the top.
I was going to ask if it was Poe. Actually, my first instinct was it was Poe, but no, Wedge would be more Dave's era of when he was doing stuff for Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of Rogue Squadron-ish.
So
that's cool.
All over.
So I'm to understand Galaxies. I'm kind of educating myself as we go here a little bit, and so Galaxy seems to have, it's more art focused and has.
Yeah, you will still have. Yeah, you will still have, like, the base sets and the inserts are nearly all artwork, but you'll have autographs in there. So you'll have like regular portrait autographs of folks, and then and as well as sketch cards and things like that. I was just kind of looking. I think there were some buybacks in here. Oh yeah, there was 1993 Galaxy buybacks where they basically take the card, they'll put a stamp on it. This is not the first time they've done this. They've done this for 30th and 40th or so forth, and which I kind of find funny because, as Ian would know, Galaxy 1993 ain't hard to find. It was printed to the moon. And so, like, what makes someone, I think, posted recently on a board, it's like, so if I have a buyback Galaxy and there's a stamp on it, is it valuable? And I'm like, no. I mean, it's a Galaxy card. It might be rare in that there's not a lot of the ones with stamps on them, but I'm like, it's not a valuable card to begin with.
It was the same with Marvel, because they were doing Clear Ultra Spider-Man 1995, which was the first Clear Ultra Spider-Man set. That was buybacks in Clear Ultra Spider-Man 2017. But of course, they limit them, they number them. So, and even this made me laugh. Upper Deck was kind of like, it was like a lizard eating its own tail. When they did Marvel Beginnings Volume 2 in 2023 was the first one came out, I think. They had buybacks in there for Marvel Beginnings 2011 that was their own set. I was like, hang on a minute, that's so recent. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, it's lovely, and actually, there were only 10 of each. So as well as the stamp, they were numbered, and it took me the longest time to track down the black cat one. See, that's nice. Which one did you just?
This is also a Dave Dorman. This is not the first time we've seen this particular one we've got Han Solo, and I think this is one of the. I thought it's one of the Dark Empire ones. I've had him sign a couple.
This is the thing for me. So because this is literally the first time I've ever seen, not with my own eyes, obviously I'm through a screen, a Galaxy Chrome card. And what struck me then, of course, is the shine on it and the kind of the plasticiness of it. Because, I've only got Galaxies years 1, 2, and 3. And they are very much old school. They feel like cardboard, I guess is the best way for it. But they also, the light hits them in the way that you would expect a card from the 90s to be hit.
They also
that
curve.
Must be, they always do that type of card. So that's the weird thing for me. It's the original art on a chrome kind of stock. I mean, I know we saw it a little bit with Platinum. That kind of had that vibe going on with it. That was original art with that. But I guess that's my only experience of it now. So if you think of something like Marvel Masterpieces, imagine if Marvel Masterpieces Chrome was a thing.
You may not have to wait too long.
I mean, I know. Well, I think
I know.
I think that remains. I mean, technically speaking, I guess Marvel Masterpieces '92 Platinum was that. If you think of it in those terms, but that just as you held that artwork up, just seeing it in the shiny chrominess was I just had to comment on it.
Which there are different variants, but the ones, and I was looking over, I was doing some pulling some trade dupes with a guy I know in Miami who was interested in 2025 Chrome, the regular Topps Chrome Star Wars. And one of their variants is a refractor. And it's one of those, the only way you can tell it's a refractor because of the chrome is it says refractor on it. And I get fooled by them all the time. It's a little extra shiny, but for me, it's and they're very prevalent. They're usually like 1 out of every 2 packs, and I hate them.
It's like a rainbow type of effect, isn't it? So,
it's already shiny, and I'm like, I can't really tell the difference, and you're wasting this pack space by putting this useless variant, because you guys have talked about sometimes you get a variant release where it's like you can barely tell it's a parallel, and I'm like, this particular shine, the chrome doesn't really lend itself to refractors. I could go another 20 minutes on it, but that's just I've got an axe to grind on refractor.
I'm sure. Listen, I refractor this, refractor that. At least that set says refractor on the back. The new Topps Marvel Studios Chrome release doesn't say on the back. And you've got several different types of out of 50, for example. You've got gold, true gold, gold wave, gold microwave oven, whatever it is, it's ridiculous. So you can't just say the out of 50 is this, because there's 3 different out of 50s. There's 3 different blacks. There's true black, there's black geometry, and there's black something else. It's like OMG. It's like, but say on the back of the card what it is. Sorry, I'm
make it easy for somebody new to absorb.
Yeah.
If somebody's picking up the set and they're limited experience with it, let us be able to identify what we truly have, because sometimes it takes a minute to get your legs underneath you with the new set.
Oh, and a lot of Topps ones where I don't really know whether this is a cracker board or whether it's a, they have all these different variants, but they won't tell you I've bought sand glitter set. It says it was sand glitter parallel for Max Christie, but it was a hollow foil one. And I'm like, I'd have to excuse the seller, because I'm like, how would you know? So in some of these, I have to almost go back to the checklist and go, all right, or go to eBay and go, all right, the number of ones that are for sale, it kind of looks like this, but with it's nutty. I mean, Galaxy has, I think, 14 or 15 different parallels, including the superfractor.
That was going to be my question. If the Galaxy had as many parallels as some of the other Chrome.
It's been pretty common, I would say, that you'll have these. I know that with some of the finest, because I was doing thanks to this podcast, I kind of got into, character or auto rainbows when you couldn't afford the actual product, and so there was a time where like there would be 9 or 10, and then next year they added. So there's the orange and then there's the orange the orange wave. And so now you almost doubled the number of parallels. Like I said, it's nowhere near the 56 parallels or whatever for Max Christie that I have to get from Topps Basketball, which I'm assuming is about what baseball is. But there you go. If you're a company like that and you can print to the moon, go for it.
So,
do you know? Makes me feel like this.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Carry on, Jason.
Sorry. Have there been? I know that just the regular Star Wars Chrome I've seen retail, but has there ever been the Galaxy Chrome? Have those ever been in retail?
Many, many, many years ago. Yeah, I would want to say the 2018.
Retail. I'm familiar. Yeah, because that was I had just gotten into cards, and those were prevalent at Target. But as far as since it's changed to Chrome, I
don't think we've seen Chrome Galaxy in retail since it flipped over. I don't seem to recall that 2021 and beyond ever having it, which is a shame.
I was a big fan of 2018 because it kind of scratched my the Marvel itch. I had just gotten back into cards, and those I like Star Wars, so it was easy to find those at Target. I went through many a blaster. I still don't have a complete base yet, but I really enjoyed that 2018 set.
And I've gotten a chance to talk with a number of those artists, the ones that did new cards for the 2018 Galaxy. And it's a favorite set of mine because I think it comes like right before I started doing the podcast and getting to meet having some signed. And it really, it's a great release. And I know that, remember Ben just talking about how excited he was that he was getting a base card, because a lot of these sketch artists, they would love a base card.
Oh yeah.
Something that, they can say, hey, I'm on a card.
Yeah, that would be nice. So what have you been heading into? I heard you mention a couple of times a release called Hyperspace. Has that been a release in the last 12 months? And is that something that's more
like the last 12 days? No,
really?
Hyperspace came out December 30th, right about 2 or 3 weeks after Galaxy dropped. And we'd had a Hyperspace 2024 come out in February. And, Hyperspace was yet another like Chrome or Chrome Black, where it was, now they did with Hyperspace say, oh, hey, we're focusing on some planets or some things. But for the most part, it's, it's more or less, portraits again. But yeah, Hyperspace was another 100 card base set. I think in 2025, I think they were highlighting planets like Tatooine, Lothal, Mandalore, Alderaan, Corellia, and then featuring creatures, characters, ships, notable goods from each planet. So there is a theme to it, but I think they must have been just trying to get the release out, because I'm like, okay, Galaxy coming out before Christmas, yay. But then after Christmas, when nobody has any cash, let's do Hyperspace. You're going, no. But once again, I was kind of looking at, I think the boxes were getting under 300, because I think the 2025 Galaxy was about 285 on blowout. And I want to say Hyperspace was probably somewhere around there, 270, 280. But yeah, just another release. I mean, I guess it's about as, hey, they're showing some other things besides people. Cool. Cause that's, but yeah, I thought it's an odd time. They must have been clearing the deck of releases. I don't know what they're doing this year just yet, outside of I have an idea of a few ones. But Hyperspace, like I said, I think it became sort of one going, oh, another one. And so I haven't really given it that much attention, only because I'm like, I don't know why this time right now. And Topps is very famous about you'll find out about a week before it's coming out. You're going, oh really? Because a lot of times, even when Topps themselves will put out pre-orders for, it'll sell out incredibly quickly, and then that's probably the last time you'd find it at somewhat near MSRP before the bigs get it and jack up the price because the market dictates.
So what have you been chasing? What have you been picking up? Because obviously you mentioned that that you need some exceptionally deep pockets to be able to buy this stuff now, and just with the nature of the parallels, you're going to have to buy a fair bit just to get a base set. So I guess this is where your kind of network comes in, and your community.
Right. So I do know folks who collect heavier than others, and a lot of times my strategy of the last few years has been, if I'm looking for a set, generally wait until after the breakers have gotten it, and then you start seeing the secondary markets like eBay get kind of flooded with either lots or base set. And although this is an efficient way of doing it, I would actually prefer, I like chasing lots on eBay, random assortments of 10, 20, 30, because it's as close to opening a pack, because then I can start to kind of fill a binder and start to kind of piece it together. And then, it was kind of funny because I just started putting my 2025 Chrome into a binder, and I was sitting there like, how is this thing organized? And finally, until I got out near the end going, oh, it's alphabetical by character name. I'm like, oh, but that's not something you're going to see when you're opening up packs. But it's not until you really get into a binder where you start seeing where were they going with this? Who did they decide to go? What movie and so forth? And that's, I'll love kind of putting the Galaxy into a binder. Those ones I like because I've tried to collect. I think I'm only missing a few of the earlier ones. I know that Galaxy 6 was very underprinted, so it's a really tough set to put together. But there's one or two Galaxy sets I think I'm still missing. But generally, even if it's like of the last 5 Chrome releases, I still want to have a base set because I want to know who's doing the artwork. Have they kind of done them right? And then you can start to see like, oh, then it's kind of like a living history of the Star Wars art that you can kind of get an idea. But that's, I would say, how I've handled Star Wars outside of the aforementioned, basketball, parallel chases, or I'm still working on this 1956 Topps baseball, which I'm about, I think I'm up to top 4. I've got 40 left. Most of them were commons that weren't worth that much, but the last 8, these guys, Willie Mays, Ted Williams, Roberto Clemente, these guys you've never heard of, but their cards have a lot of Mickey Mantle. They're very expensive.
Even I've heard of some of those guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even I. Yes.
One of Jackie's last cards, by the way, Jackie Robinson's cards.
Oh wow.
Wow.
But I think with any of these chases, and you guys could say the same thing, there are some where you're in a hurry to get them, maybe some where it's like it's just a nice slow burn, or it's a diversion where if I'm not working on this, then in between I can kind of, what am I now famous for saying, filling vintage holes? Is that the phrase I'm going to put on my epitaph?
Yes, that's my
nice.
takeaway. Dear listener, listen to episode 200 of Greg's Rebel Base Card podcast, and you too can listen to Greg talk about filling vintage holes, which, because I'm 5 years old, still makes me laugh several days later.
Love it.
I immediately texted you and said, I can't believe you said that. Anyway, so what I'm fascinated by is what I know there's new collectors being brought in by Topps Fanatics. I know that is true. I think that's definitely bringing in more eyes. There's more noise being made. There's more money being made for a lot more of that network, which is why I think there are so many more voices advocating for it, because they're making money. So the breakers, the people that do this, it's turned into that kind of ecosystem where there's money moving through. But I imagine that and I say this with no disrespect to anyone, but the kind of the more OG crowd, the more traditional crowd, the yous and the me's, you know, because I think we definitely fit that mold. I'm not going to speak for Josh and Jason on that. Josh and Jason. But what reaction are you seeing from other kind of more OG Star Wars collectors that you know? How are they finding it, and how are they navigating these waters? Because I know that and I've spoken about this before, I think with Star Wars, the kind of the borders between whether you collect cards, whether you into the figures, whether you're into go into celebration, whether you're into dressing up, it's much more permeous. It's much more of a fan base that coheses. Whereas with Marvel, it feels very much like if you're cards, then you might not do something else over here, or if you're comics, you might do a little bit of cards, but you probably stick to comics, you know. So it feels like that. So what kind of reaction have you been seeing from those guys?
I think there have been some, and the hot take would agree with this, is that some people stopped. Only because I know a friend of mine, Steve Stolk, over at the Star Wars Topps Cards, he would normally get, like, his shtick was he'd get a hobby box, keep one sealed, and buy one. And usually, you know, there was a time, for a long time, you could get a full base set in a box, and you either get an auto or a sketch card or something like that, you know, for the more modern era. And some people have stopped. I know that others who are still fairly serious would, you know, they choosy mothers choose Jeff, right? And so they're like, I'm going to wait until there's something I want to see, and then I might buy a box, or some people who buy those cases. But I know that any hold I had on the casual market probably kind of ground to a halt, other than thankfully when they've released Topps Chrome in retail, because the people do like those. They like opening Star Wars cards, because Star Wars fans, you know, we collect, even the ones that are not like would say they're collectors, they have Star Wars stuff at home, and they have money, and they would like to buy some stuff. But if you make it hard for them, or if you make it out, you know, like, you know, a $300 box that might have, you know, some random auto in it, I would enjoy the auto, but that's not a return of anything. You know, they're not even thinking of selling it, but they're going, oh, because, you know, some of these other boxes, they might, you know, you can show, hey, here's a Mark Hamill SIG, or here's this, and then you're pulling, you know, the fourth Stormtrooper from X property. That doesn't excite anyone, and it's not sort of a, oh, by the way, it's not a Target purchase. And I think, although, you know, it's amazing what our hobby has come to rely on Target to go, look, you know, because it's more organized than Walmart. Let's just face the facts. But it's more of a, that's where I got back into the hobby in 2015 with Journey to the Force Awakens, because it was, you could find it in the aisles. It was a variant just for Target, and it had the Blue Star video. I'm like, oh, it's just I'm here to pick up some, you know, some dishwater detergent and some other things, and I'll just throw a couple of this in there. That's where it is. But yeah, to answer your question, it's like it has forced, I wouldn't say forced, people have made the decision going, you know, this is not really something I'm into. I might pick it up at a later date, but, you know, like, but there's so much more money out there from folks who are enjoying the whatnots and the breaks and all that kind of stuff, that's covering it for the most part, or at least for now, until something may happen. It's hard to say. That might change. You know, we keep thinking junk wax is going to come back. I don't think in that aspect, but I think at some point, just like we saw with the Marvel movies in general, right, that there is a bit of a malaise, and that it's not as exciting, and people are not beating a path to get into the theaters because they've got Disney Plus. And so we're the crux, you know, as I was on another podcast talking about the changing of the guard at Lucasfilm, as Kathleen Kennedy has decided to retire, and Dave Filoni and Lin-Manuel Brennan are stepping in to take over, that it's a very interesting time for Star Wars. But there's still collectors with money out there. They love buying stuff. They love finding Star Wars stuff. But right now, it's very hard to find cards that make you want to go, oh, hey, I'll just take a flyer on that. Not with brake pad money that they're charging for it.
I'm sure Fanatics would probably listen to that and say the following:
Do or do not. Please don't try.
Spend your money with us. I think is where I was going with that one. I've got more, kids. I've got more. I will carry on forcing that into your feed. What do you? Well, this is interesting. I was going to say what the last talking point I had on here was really, and I don't know if anything is going to change, but what do you hope would change in the next year or two? If you could, I mean, if you could kind of steer that ship and whisper into, was it Michael Rubin? He's the top dog over at Fanatics, isn't he? If you could lean into his ear and say 3 things that you'd like to see either return to or to bring a balance to the force, perhaps, how would you whisper that?
First, I would say to Mr. Rubin, with all due respect, I can tell you're not smiling in any of your pictures. Your pictures at FanFest, pictures with your family. There is not. I'm sure he's a very nice gentleman, but there is not any happiness in any of those shots in his eyes. Go look and prove me wrong. He has the same blank stare smile in every picture he's ever taken or posted on Instagram. I'm sure he gets happy somehow, but that'd be the first thing. And it's creepy on some level, but I jest because I know that they could come after me. But I would say that, he said that he wanted to 10x the hobby. And certainly one way is to go, hey, there's money to be made in it. But I would also say that I think retail needs some love, and a lot of love, because I do think that it's worthwhile to put it out there. I mean, why in the world would they keep making NBA hoops? Everybody knows it's not a premium product, but every year you see it out there, and you see it for a reason. I mean, there's a Prism, there's a hoops, there's all that. There's flagship baseball. They haven't stopped making flagship baseball. They can't. I mean, it's just they print it, they put it everywhere, and that's what I would love to see. I want to see Star Wars in more places where people could get it, and then if they want to, they go, I really like this and I want more. They can do what I did in 2015 and find out. I didn't find out for years there were hobby boxes. I kept buying blasters and getting, accumulating in a massive amount of dupes until I realized and then I changed the way, like maybe I'll buy a hobby box. But even then, buying a hobby box and getting a full set meant that it was done one and done. And you're like, that's not, I don't know if that's fun either. But I would say that, things like title cards, credits, checklists, are interesting to me as an OG collector, but I do think I would like to know who worked on these sets. I would like to have a nice title card. I would like somehow for maybe just to make 99 cards so they fit in a binder and not have to go one more page. I know that trips a trigger for Ian. Yeah. That's why I said it. But I think that with Star Wars going back into theaters, I think with the 50th anniversary of Star Wars in 2027 with Celebration coming up, that there's an opportunity to hook back in new collectors, but not just with high-end stuff. I would say make things on all levels, and I think that the current climate would enjoy it. But I also think with the high-end stuff that there is a value in this. One of the reasons why I love going back and I pick up lots of the 1977s and 78s is because I remember as a kid trying to fill that puzzle that was on the back. Each set had 1 or 2 20 to 25 card puzzles, and I remember just laying them out there, seeing the vintage holes. See, there we go. That's a reason why it's there, and just going like, I want to see this puzzle completed. And especially with the movie releases, if you ever look at a series 1 of any of the sequel trilogy ones where it's just like Star Wars Force Awakens and nothing on the back, I'm like, put a puzzle on the back or something, make that base set worth something. I know that people aren't filling in checklists, but they are part of your hobby and they're part of your history. And I think that's what I would say. And smile in your pictures, please. Smile like I mean it. Smile like I mean it.
They're part of it's part of the heritage of it. I think that's the thing. I think I'm not a money guy, so maybe I'm wrong, but I would like to believe that 2 things can be true. You can 10x the hobby, but you can also respect the heritage of it. Because it's
absolutely
just, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, we're relatively new to Marvel being in this space, but I'm not sure I feel optimism about Marvel cards over the next however many years it will be.
you could see them becoming very, like every year. It's like that's the one thing I do love about Upper Deck is I love the different themes. I love the fact that with their different properties, you could have ultras and these different skyboxes and stuff where they had or metal where you had a different theme to it because essentially it's another Wolverine, right? And I think that's something even back in the day when I remember the original Marvel cards in Comic Source and things like that before I left the States is like, I was more into comics. I said, well, this is just, I can get X-Men in my X-Men comic. I don't know if I need them on my cards. But I do like that Upper Deck really respected that and goes, hey, we're going to have masterpieces where we go after an artist. They're going to do a whole set. Star Wars has that with, Shadows of the Empire. And I think even with this Galaxy, the base cards were done by a group of people. And they have a lot of them have numbers in them. I like that.
Yes.
But, in listening to them talk, when you guys talked about the Harry Potter release and that's upcoming this year and the different things they're going to do, I'm like, man, I want in on some of that because that's exciting. Because when we talked to, you introduced me to that fellow from Upper Deck last year at the National, listening to him, it was exciting to hear what they were doing. Fanatics and Tops don't do that. They don't, in some cases, what Upper Deck kind of like has the Avis slogan, we try harder. They kind of do. I mean, I'm not just, because I'm on your show, I'm not trying to pander to them, but I'm like, this is something that I, as a collector, I'm excited to hear that they're going, hey, dig this. And whenever you have the Upper Deck guys on, I really enjoy kind of listening because I'm like, they're trying stuff out. Maybe it doesn't hit. I like that they're trying with different properties. I mean, they still have NHL for now. But I just want stuff that I can afford, that I can find, and that excites the collector in me going, I want some chases. I want some things to do. And if I can afford to go chase it, then I'll spend more money on it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's the texture of it is what comes to mind from what you're saying. When I've got Chrome cards in my hand, they'll I don't know, they'll feel the same, shiny. Whereas when you've got an Upper Deck, exactly. But especially if you're a character collector, and it feels like you've taken a slice of a layered cake, that's got different layers and different flavors and different colored sponges and things like that. So if you're a character collector and you take that slice, you've got something with a different flavor and texture with each of those as you go across the set. So certainly if I look at my Black Cat cards from the last year, there's a wide variety of textures, images, styles, thickness, original artwork, reproduced artwork, artist autographs. You've got that real mix, and I think it's a shame to lose that from Marvel, and I think it's a shame that it feels to me like that's kind of ebbed a bit with Star Wars from what you've told us. I mean, Greg's quite happily just started to open a 90s card pack. So, Greg, what are you opening here? Tell us.
Oh, that's cool.
I am opening a pack of 1997 vehicles, which originally kind of started off as a Galaxy set. They got a couple, three artists to do a number of these. This was a company called Top Cal, which I think did some. It's still around doing collectibles, but they got to have their name on it.
Yeah.
And you got like a chrome or a gold effect on the vehicle there on the actual. Does that have like a
definitely on there's an embossed logo for Tops, and it does sort of have a little shinier. It doesn't feel completely chrome because there's the base, the sort of a back.
Well, that's the thing. You can have foil, doesn't make it chrome. So I think it's more of a foil effect.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Death Star 2, Sail Barge. What else we got here?
What do we got here? How is this? This might be upside down. That might be a little better.
I'm not even sure what that is.
Sun Cruiser, Imperial super weapon prototype. I love this.
This is great. So there could be some extended universe in there.
This is an E-wing fighter.
Okay.
Wow. Definitely some extended universe then. Yeah. Because all this
Yeah.
stuff, didn't when Disney bought it, didn't they jettison all that extended universe stuff? I'm not even sure if that's the
Yes.
name of it. I know
when
they
Disney
bought
bought, they
back,
called it.
the
Yeah, they
Blue
called the
Guy
rest of the stuff
for it,
Legends, and so. But some of those, releases, and especially if you go back, I mean, I guess I think there were still some Galaxy sets. I want to say because they did 4 through 7 between like 2009 and 2012. So I guess right near the end, where there was still some Legends material in here. Now, here's a very 90s looking one, and especially when you see the back, and you see the fonts and things like that. And that's something that I love is how much information they pack on these cards. This is very much a set of its time. Not many hits. There was a couple of, I think, finest type ones where there was a Leia and Luke. You could put the cards together, and then there was a redemption card that you could pull, and I think it was like one per box that you could send in, and then you would get a larger version of those two cards together. And I think in the couple packs that I opened a few weeks ago, I think I've got one of the two sides, and I got the redemption card, which supposedly it's rare. And I seen a couple of eBay sales where it was like, that's a lot.
Send it in.
Yeah, I don't think that they'll do that anymore. But I know when I've done some custom cards that have tried to emulate that Galaxy design. This is, I love trying to emulate this because this shows you the amount of stuff they're trying to pack in, because they're appealing to a direct market who they know is going to be all over this. And
right,
I'm on eBay right now, so I'm going to leave you to talk because I'm just curious to look at these.
I have a sealed box of this by the way. I got before COVID, but I've never had a chance to look at the individual cards. And so that was one of the reasons why when I saw them, I'm like, you know what, I'll pick up a few packs every now and then. I'll try to, I think there was only a 70, 75, 77. It's not a large set, and there's not really much other than those cards I mentioned. There's not really any chases. So most folks have kind of left this alone, but it's an oddball set at a time. Like I said, they had just finished doing the Galaxies. They were into the wide visions, which, by the way,
I still have some of those.
Go back and get some of those original wide vision kids.
The original ones.
mid-90s.
There's so much text on the back. They're beautiful.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those. The ones that were like kind of
because remember, by that time, we're still in VHS, and we haven't seen the full frame of some of these. And then they did the wide vision 3Ds, which with mixed results. And so that's what, I was overseas during this time, so I didn't collect any of this, and it's been fun to kind of go back and see some of those. Oh, that's a nice B-Wing. This is the best of both worlds, because it's a Galaxy-esque kind of feel to where you're getting original art that was composed for this. It's not that, I don't think it'd be that hard of a set to put together. There's a really nice one. You have like the comic, like there, like the artist who is signing it, kind of like a comic book. But once again, you're getting with, like, say, Luke's land speeder. Look at all that great text, secondary images. And
a lot of data there.
things. Yeah, that definitely scratches the Galaxy itch there.
Oh yeah.
That's
I think
awesome.
Galaxy collectors would absolutely love this set.
I had no idea about that set. And when you showed the pack, I thought it was just going to be photos of spaceships, but seeing the art, that's really neat. I like that a lot.
Oh, yeah, here's Boba Fett.
Wesley's back with us, so I just need to just pause a sec. Wesley, can you hear us? Oh,
I think that's no.
This is the first.
I'd say the
Wesley's
concern on
been
Wesley's
joined the
face probably
podcast.
means no.
Yeah, Wesley's not having a good day. Bless him. Wesley, I know that you won't hear this today. You might not hear it until the episode drops. But
you may
can
never
I just
hear
tell
it.
you how much we love you, and we're sorry that you're having technical difficulties. I think I just wanted to kind of do that whole thing where people make that heart out of their hand and send it towards Wesley. Let's all do that. Let's all do that to Wesley. I can never do it. Looks like
He'll
such
know
a
what it
crab
is.
There we go. That's for you, Wesley.
I'm opening these packs for your benefit, Wesley.
Yes, yes.
And
I
looking at
dedicate
them,
these pack openings to you.
The style of those packs, when some of the original, the first Star Wars sets go, when you're talking about the fonts and the way they do their card design, pack as much data as they can on the backs. Now it's kind of a little bit different as far as some of the setups and designs go. When you're doing a card yourself, it's tough not to go back to that style there with, like you say, with the way it's set up, with, you know, you're almost trying to create like the power scale, like they used to have the, you know, the power scale on the Marvel cards. So yeah, you go back to those things that you remember originally when you were excited to, you know, to open some of these packs and boxes, especially when you're trying to build a set yourself.
Well, and you know, you can see, and I always say, and I'll every time I talk about it, it's like, if you haven't gotten a set of Empire Strikes Back Series 1, do yourself a favor and get it, because it's a high water mark of the vintage, the introduction of the title cards, the checklist, the behind the scenes card.
Yeah.
And things like this, and especially the Ralph McQuarrie art, which they did again in Series 3. But for us at the time, you know, this stuff wasn't going to be on TV for a while. Star Wars wasn't on TV when Empire came out. And other than, like, say, Starlog Magazine or some of the ancillary things, this was how we found out. It's one of the reasons I'm a little disappointed in, you know, like, whereas in Series 1 Empire, where they were talked about the scene in the film and they went it in order and you had the preview image, you know, the Star quizzes and the subsequent ones, you go, meh. But then, you know, I never quite got, I did ask Gary Durrani, I was like, what was the deal with the colors in Series 3, where I'm holding up a shot of Yoda. This is a comic shot. It's yellow, green, and pink. And he was like, we just picked random colors. I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't ask. Never be careful meeting your heroes, because they'll just be like, I'd rather have the mystery. But yeah, these were our, you know, like what we were able to see and remember, because we just didn't have them.
Sure.
And, you know, now I think that's one of the reasons why the collectors now, with it always being around, you don't need the cards to show you what you just saw. You could fire it up on your phone, and thus the portraits and the characters and their debuts are more valuable because they don't need them, and which is kind of a shame. I know that in some of these sets they'll do scenes and things like that, and that's super cool. But I'll be very curious, once again, to kind of wrap it around again, what's going to happen with Mando and Grogu? How are they going to do it? Are they going to do a preset? Are they just going to do a Series 1 and be done? Are they going to do a Chrome? Are they going to do a Chrome Sapphire one of it? How are they going to market this? And what does that mean for, you know, the next year and the next films? Because definitely Starfighter and all that will be under the Fanatics reign. I mean, 50 years, nearly 50 years of top Star Wars cards, you know.
Wow.
There's a lot out there, kids.
Wow. Yeah. They've already gone back to the well with reprinting the original kind of Star Wars cards in a kind of a chromey format.
Many times.
Was it Heritage? Was it Heritage was the first one that did that?
Chrome Archives in 1999
Chrome
was sort of a forebearer of what was to come. And it comes during a very odd time during the prequel run. But that was where you got some of the original cards, and they kind of sprinkled across the three the three films, and those were Chrome. And then Heritage took that stock, kind of put some things, included some of the prequel stuff in there. And then, a lot of the Journey 2 sets for the sequel trilogy were on that vintage type card stock. In some cases, a little heavier than the original. That's why if you get like the Rogue One mission briefings, I think was the one for that film that used, Return of the Jedi. And then the Sapphire ones have kind of like went back to the well, where they had Chrome Sapphire Star Wars. And that was, let's see, I think that was 2022, and then they did a Return of the Jedi. They never did Empire, and then they did one in 2024. They did Chrome Sapphire Phantom Menace for its 20th anniversary, but they did something. Oh yeah, they did a Topps Chrome Sapphire edition, but each edition kind of got a little less popular, and so this is time you can go back. Like I went back to some of those, because the Sapphire ones were very expensive and you had to buy them online at a certain time, that I pieced together some of those that had the puzzle pieces on the back. And then I used the binder, like, okay, I want this section of the puzzle and I want those 9 cards. And in that way, I get a little sampling of the product, and it also is fun to look at in a binder. Just having fun. And this is taking a cue from what you guys do when you're talking about character collecting, or you're doing sketches, or you're looking for something because you may not be able to put together realistically the full set, or notwithstanding a master set, which I didn't know was a thing until I heard you guys talk about it.
I'm just wondering if Wesley's anywhere near to hearing this, because he's. I thought the Jawa.
That is like space program concentration. I think NASA would be picking this guy up, because that is a focus.
I think he's hacking into NORAD as we speak.
Right.
I think
he's got some high-tech looking headphones on.
He does have some high-tech looking headphones. Unfortunately, I don't think they're giving him any sound of what we're saying. Oh, very nice. Very nice. Greg keeps holding up really cool cards that no one on audio can see.
The Executor.
But they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous. That's really nice.
What you guys do on this podcast, man. I hear you guys talking.
Yeah. Oh. This is sexy. How many packs do you
Question
buy?
here. Do you guys do you guys believe that the this card stock that they've switched to here recently with the feel that it has, are they grading out better? Is it more common to get higher grades with this newer stock? Is that something that got thrown into the thought process when they were it feels like I'm seeing a lot of high grades coming from this new type of plasticky medium.
I mean, certainly the way it cuts. I mean, like even on this one, curves don't matter, I don't think, when it comes to grading. But I noticed, like across this one, I noticed that there was a little bit. I could tell there was a little bit of something where it got cut up there. I think for the most part, I know that some people will talk about centering, and I don't think any of these newer modern releases are immune from centering defects or something happened where. But I would say that.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, they look pretty solid to me. I mean, when I'm opening them up, I think you could probably send that in, these in. That I love this one. This is a Wampa from Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, that's
nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is Hugh Fleming doing some of this. But yeah, I would say anything that you pull out of a pack, it's a good start. Don't ever buy Attack of the Clones, please. Sealed. Don't buy it. It sticks together. There's a random PSA from me to you. Don't make mistakes that I did. If you got some sealed Attack of the Clones, not the White Visions, don't open them, please.
Okay. It's an interesting question, that, Josh, because my feeling is I think that's by design. That whole grades better because it feeds money into the ecosystem. If he's looking to 10x the hobby, that's coming from a financial perspective, in my view. So how I perceive that statement is, okay, everyone's going to make more money. The breakers are going to make more money. Through whatnot things. We're going to structure the sets whereby they'll be much more. I think how Upper Deck say is value in the product, but for me, that's kind of phantom value. The phantom value, because when every card's special, none of the cards are special. Does that make sense? It's like
that's the perfect thing you could say.
And I think that's the same with the grading. If so many more of them are going to be graded, well, then
you're going to take away
that takes away the specialness as well. Because it's actually, I'm not someone who grades, but I know there's kind of an art to it, and there's kind of a bit of a gamble to it as well. But people are really proud when they've spent a lot of time selecting through cards, looking at them with a loop, and checking the corners, checking the surfacing, checking the centering, and selecting the ones they want to send in. And if they get 9s or 10s, if they gem them, then they're really that's an achievement. It's kind of a real life e-pack achievement built into the hobby.
Certainly does.
If they're all on this stock that's kind of, you can throw a rock at it and it'll still get a 9, then you lose that special thing. So it does take me back to that as a children's story I read to my daughter more than a few years ago now, where one of the characters was saying, "Oh, I wish it would snow every day, because then but if it's like, well, if it snowed every day, then it wouldn't be special and fun.
Wouldn't be special
playing it,
right?
Yeah. So I don't know.
I think what you said is important there, because it does absolutely feel like a strategic move. It does feel like it was planned, and that was possibly some of the idea behind it. Because even just from a longevity for the vibrance of the card, these types of medians are going to hold up UV wise. Everybody keep an eye on where you keep your collections, and certainly not in the sunlight, but these are going to hold up longer. Colors and things like that are going to stay stronger over time. So it does seem like it was all done with an intent, and stuff like that just catches its interest me. And it's always been like, okay, I can see what I think they're seeing, and it makes me feel like a lot more the direction of different brands are going to continue to go this way.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that is another reason why, like a product like Flagship from 2022, 2023, they were retail. There was a lot of base there. It was still portraits, but it was base. It was on regular cardstock. And maybe those higher end ones didn't find value other than looking for, the serialized ones that they could grade. And so they didn't see a value in it, as opposed to the shiny stuff, which they can go, here's a superfractor, this or that. Let's go to town.
Yeah, I actually liked that Flagship set. I found a couple blasters or retail, and I only bought a couple, but I think I was missing one card from a complete base set out of buying just a few blasters. And I need to go back and maybe finish that one up. I know it's pretty affordable. And I did get a serial number parallel, a green Mandalorian. It was like to $4.99, but that was still a good one to get. But yeah, I like that Flagship, and I was wondering if they were ever going to do any more, because it was kind of entry level and affordable.
I think that's what now the regular yearly Chrome is, with its debut medallions on it, and the fact that they'll put blasters. That's the new base. I just wish they would make more of it, because for some reason I think you can still find it, but GameStop had a little bit of it, but I know people have seen it in Target and Walmart, but I never really saw it. So, I think I saw more Marvel over the last couple years than I've seen Star Wars in my local big box.
Yeah, it definitely shifted, because I at first was seeing more Star Wars and then more Marvel. Now it's just a miracle if any of it shows up in town. So
yeah, and with some of the Walmart and Target, the products that are there, it does go on location a little bit. Like I noticed from talking to Jason, they almost always are hitting, where you're at geographically matters. So down here, we will see them in Target and Walmart, but it's usually later than Jason sees them. So depending on how big you are to a, larger city in your state, some of that has a slight effect on when it finally finds your local store. So,
and yeah, it just depends, because I noticed I discovered not too long ago GameStop sells cards, and so sometimes they get stuff a little bit earlier than Target. Like they got Batman Metal several weeks before Target and Walmart. Or Walmart really doesn't have that much stuff around here anyways, mostly Target. But then I saw the newest Star Wars Chrome. I've only seen it at Books A Million, which I don't know if those are everywhere, but it's kind of a Barnes & Noble type store.
Yeah, we used to have a BAM up here for a time.
Yeah.
A BAM. So it's got it.
BAM.
I only heard about this a couple of weeks ago from Jason. Now all of a sudden it's got its own acronym. Look at this.
Yeah, they've been rolling for a while.
Oh yeah.
Back in the 90s, Barnes & Noble, not Barnes & Noble, Books A Million had like a case with cards and like kind of in its own section. That's where I first got some of the like 94 masterpieces and stuff like that was from Books A Million back in the day.
I think I even saw some if not a blaster, some packs for the boys at GameStop. So I know that GameStop, and although they have been shrinking their footprint as far as number of stores in my area, I know that they actually had kind of expanded a little card area so that people could sit, and if they wanted to rip, Pokemon and things like that, or some other cards, they could. And they were also selling supplies, which I'm all about more places selling them. Although it's funny to see Topps binders in Target for like $30. And I know that Ian, who got me on the ultra expensive binder tech train for a number of years, thank you very much. I was sitting there going, how can I spend $30 on a binder? Well, shoot, now go to Target and you're going, but that binder tech's pretty cheap, and you get the case slip cover for it. So next the sales that I see on the newsletter, and by the way, sign up for Binder Tech's newsletter, because you will find out when they're having their good sales, and they're not many per year. But if you want a good binder with a slipcase, and I know they don't sponsor the program, but man, they are good stuff.
Yeah, I'm just looking through my stack of promos here, just opening. Oh, Wesley's back. I know Wesley was typing away because we heard him typing. Can he hear us?
You guys are not going to believe this.
Oh boy!
You can hear us.
I can. First, oh my gosh, I can't. So, when I got down here, I was playing this game, and I like to listen to it, not on my headphones. And so I unplugged the cord from the headphone spot in the back of the XLR, and then I plugged my headphones in, and I spent an hour trying to figure out what was wrong with it, with the internal stuff, making sure the stuff's routed. I was watching a video, and I just plugged it in to the microphone spot instead of the headphone spot this whole time.
This time.
I'm so sorry, Greg. I'm so sorry, guys. I feel...
Well, Wesley, I've just got one thing to say to you now. You're back. There you go. Well, welcome. We were talking about you, not to you. We were talking about you at one point, and we were sending you love. We did the love hearts to the screen. We weren't sure if you were looking at it at the time.
Oh yeah.
Because we could see how purple in the boiler you were getting with your computer. So,
gosh,
better late than never, I guess is the thing. Well, yeah.
Thanks for being there. I apologize.
Always. Wesley,
how's it going
Greg,
so far?
Greg, Wesley. That's fine.
Greg.
We've been discussing a galaxy far, far away.
Far away.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Yeah,
that is one of my favorite galaxies.
It is. It is. So as Wesley's back, we might as well let's just start again from the top. So Greg,
all right,
tell us, how did you start off in cards? well, repeat it all for Wesley.
All right. Strap in, folks. This is going to be, it's this movie right here that I think that really solidified a lot of things from a comic book perspective, from toys perspective, and from cards. Star Wars came in, I was 7 years old, and it changed everything. I mean, I remember the Christmas before, and I remember the Christmas after. Of course, nobody really got that much for Christmas in 77, but 78, man, that was a banner year, because that's when the toys and stuff came out. But yeah, I mean, I don't think even they realized, that they had a hit. I know that if you read a lot of what Gary Girani says, is that, they passed on Star Wars. Topps passed on Star Wars the first time. And then I think, was it Donruss or Bowman or something, also passed. And then Topps went out and got to sit there like, oh, I think we need to get this. And, they printed cards from basically June till into 1978. The Orange Series 5 was 1978. And so they, and then after that, you have Close Encounters comes out around the same time. And those cards were fairly popular. I know I had those. And then all of a sudden later on, Moonraker gets well over 100 card set. Star Wars cards were 66 sets, 66 cards a set. Why did Moonraker get 100, 150 cards? No idea. But it changed a lot of things. I mean, Topps had done a lot of non-sport, everything from the Incredible Hulk to Three's Company and Charlie's Angels. But, I think Star Wars really did a number for them. I know it helped Marvel out a lot. But,
Oh yeah,
it kind of created a market to a degree for a lot of those other smaller IPs to have their own card sets. I think that's definitely sowed the seeds of it.
That was actually one of the questions I had wrote down was has Topps always had the license? So I guess that's pretty much
And then it was nothing right after Return of the Jedi, and everybody was like, all right, this is done. You didn't see cards for another 10 years until Galaxy. And we were fortunate enough to have Sean McTaggart who was the product manager for that original Galaxy. He's on an episode I did a couple years ago talking when we did the anniversary of Galaxy Series 1. And, they were really wanting to, like cards were going into more of a direct market, and they wanted to really celebrate an anniversary. I think it originally started off as a 15th anniversary set. Then they kind of started thinking this should be an art set. And I do think that the Marvel cards at the time were, this is what we should do. And they went out and sought a bunch of material. Even Steve Ditko, who I was like, I want to talk to you about Steve Ditko's entrance into this and what this card meant. But, having to corral all that artwork as well as, older stuff that they had acquired from Lucasfilm. And then, I think Topps has really looked back. I mean, as we see with, the rest of the 90s, how the sets go, they're trying things like wide vision and 3D. And then they did the special editions. And then you have the prequel era, which ushers in towards the end things like autographs in 2002, with Evolution, I think in 2001, sorry, and then Heritage, I think in 2004 with sketch cards. And then there's that era, that modern era between 2004 and after the prequels up until let's say the Disney era in 2019, and then after COVID hits, things stop making sense. And then, but it's been funny to see that, they've had it ever since. It's been different focuses, different eras, but it's fun to go back and get cards from certain ones because you kind of see what they do. And I think they all kind of build upon each other, like going back to that checklist for that, where you see in the bottom, those are credits, kids. Actually, we're proud of who worked on it.
Yeah.
And, they don't do checklists anymore, rather alone say on the back, checklist. This is a card 72. That's why it's a small set. But what a banger checklist card, man. I mean, get the edits on there. But
it's can I just ask? I think people who I often have this because I think you're so used to talking to other people who are in the Star Wars world on your podcast, so I often miss references. So you often say names, but you miss the references. So this Gary fella that you've mentioned, who is he? Why is he important?
Gary Girani worked for Topps and was head of their entertainment division, and he was the one that kind of brought Star Wars cards to life. He's more recently done a number of books. He's been one of my try to get for a long time. I know we've exchanged emails for a while. He's fairly busy, and even he did some screenwriting. I want to say I forget, there was a low budget horror movie he actually did the screenplay for. But he was working for Topps really up until into the 90s. And so he goes through from the 70s through to into the 90s, because I know he was responsible for helping to bring that first Galaxy set to life and bring Star Wars cards back to the market. But yeah, he had to write the copy for a lot of those the movie cards that you see for the original films and whatnot. Okay. So, but yeah, so he's sort of the Star Wars card father, as it were, and it's
card father.
I just kind of came up with that.
Very cool.
Is it true? As Kathleen Kennedy's, that did happen, right? Like she's stepped down or got. Does that affect you?
Not really, because essentially Lucasfilm is owned by Disney, and so it's one of those where this is a transition we kind of knew was coming, and we actually just recently had a breakfast pack where we talked about sort of a look ahead, and we had talked about the Kathleen Kennedy, what would happen. And I think that episode was fresh for about 6 days until they made the announcement. I'm going, I better get a new episode up because 20 minutes of this is really old business. But at the end of the day, remember Kathleen Kennedy was one of the producers of Raiders of the Lost Ark, kids. So she's got the creds, and she's going to be doing producing afterwards. She just doesn't have the mantle of having to worry about all the license, all the things that, Lenwyn Brennan, who has been general manager of Lucasfilm for a while, and she has credits going back to Lucasfilm 1999. Dave Filoni, of course, comes on with the Clone Wars after having done Avatar, not the James Cameron one, but
Oh,
the other,
yeah.
the
Airbender.
animated Avatar.
Yeah, the other.
So, and
Yeah,
he's been
Airbender
sort of vice president in terms of like kind of in a creative role. And so what we can kind of see is that he would be working more with the stories, and Lenwin would do more of the nuts and bolts. And I think it's going to be very interesting, right? This is going to be the gift that keeps on giving. So you can have your folks out there doing the YouTubes with the laser eye thumbnails and saying like Kathleen Kennedy does. No, Kathleen Kennedy had something that Lucas didn't have. I mean, Lucas ran his own shop, and outside of the first year of ILM's existence, where the kids were running the store by themselves, very good at keeping everybody focused and on task and in a cohesive story like that. And so, Kathleen Kennedy has had to work under the Disney banner and having to deal with, hey, we want everything. Okay, now we don't need everything. Or, hey, you know what? Adam Driver really likes this story. We've already got a whole screenplay. Can we do this? No, that's fine. We're good. And everybody's like, what? So, this year with Manu and Grogu coming under Dave Filoni's and Len Brennan's watch, it'll be very interesting about how much, how far. But I do think that, they know that story matters, and all those guys at Lucasfilm, that, you can say what you will about the sequel trilogy, about the prequels, all that. People who worked on that cared about that stuff. And trust me, they knew Star Wars more than any of us like to think we do. And so, although that, the gripe hype sells, that there's a lot of great other podcasts and the Substacks and things out there, YouTubers and all that that appreciate it. And you can get a lot more out of that than worrying about whose failure it was and how bad it is.
Would you not to go off, but would you kind of compare that to Kevin Feige, Dave Filoni? Like Dave Filoni kind of understands the stories, and Kevin Feige.
There's a reason why I enjoyed Superman a lot. It was fun. It didn't take itself too seriously. I appreciate the other films, but I just didn't care for them as much. But I'm not a DC guy. I'm a Marvel guy. But, for me, once I saw Crypto appear in the trailers, I'm like, I'm in, because he shouldn't be there. He's a relic from the 50s where it was like anybody even remotely associated. It's like, you know what? Clark Kent's Taylor gets his own comic series. Who was saying, no, I don't think we want to do that story. What were they turning down in the 50s for Superman? It's like the X-Men, right? There were a million X-Men titles. But I would say also having if you really want to go on a tangent, having worked at an Apple store for 13 years, and I started working when Steve Jobs was still there. It's very interesting, that transition from Steve Jobs to Tim Cook, which granted was more on health. Like Steve Jobs became chairman of the board just a couple of months before his passing. But Tim Cook took Apple in places where Steve Jobs could only dream of, as far as like the amount of revenue and the importance of that phone. And we're seeing it now with Tim Cook going, you know what? I think it's about time. I'm getting to see 65. I'd like to step back. And so these transitions at this level are critically important, not only to shareholders, but to the IP and things like that Lucas never had to worry about. He just wanted to make sure that there would still be Star Wars. Little gruff that they didn't take his, like, oh, that's cute. You got a treatment for it. Oh, we'll just put that right over here on the refrigerator. That's really adorable, George. And by the way, you're like, go find somebody to write this stuff. But you can see, you get stuff done by committees. There are lots of things to take under consideration. Everything from the parks, right? The original characters are coming back in the parks. They're rewriting Galaxy's Edge. It's got some people up in arms. Some people go, yeah, you know how much it is to get into a Disney park? Cool. I get to see Darth Vader. Great. And by the way, Darth Vader has had a long history in some of those parks, between the Jedi Academy and all that kind of stuff. I know my daughter fought Darth Vader at a Disney park in 2017. So before you get too awful excited about Darth Vader coming back, I've got pictures, and it's adorable. So it's just, it's whatever. But it's very interesting. I'm all here for Kevin Feige and what they're going to do. And I'm here for, it got me looking when Upper Decks Superman stuff comes in blasters. You go, you know what? It's not an IP I would have thought about, but I'm interested because I know that they care about it. And because they come on this podcast and talk about it. And I go, huh. As I'm sitting here as I'm at my office right now, kind of sitting there going, that doesn't sound too bad, kids, because I can't find my stuff. But I can find your stuff, and that stuff interests me a lot.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in and just ask a few questions.
No. I think
No.
you've got. Didn't you have another
Great.
question, Wesley?
Yeah. Well, the other question I had was, in Marvel people have character collectors where they focus on one character and just collect. Does Star Wars have the same type of thing where people will focus on like Luke Skywalker and just like, or
Absolutely.
Mara Jade, or
I think especially, like I think whether it's like a Rey collector or a Luke collector, I know that my friend Peter Sukas loves Luke Return of the Jedi, and so he'll covet that not only from sketch cards or commissions. I know that we were talking before about I did a rainbow of Oliver Ford Davies in the 2020, was it 2022 or 2023 finest, where I couldn't afford the actual product, but I was like, you know what? These rainbow autos are not expensive. And I got, I think, all but the 101 for that particular year. And then so he's always fun whenever I see, I can't turn him down because that what you guys kind of taught me. And you go, oh, this is another way to collect. This is a way to enjoy. I can stay with the product that's out, but I don't have to have the outlay of cash for it. And I have kind of learned character collecting because of you guys, because it's like, oh, this is a fun way. It's a different way because, from being base chasers, and, you can get just as much enjoyment and you don't need them all. You can just go
without the shelf space being.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Oh man, It takes up so much less space. I love it. Thank you very much. You saved a lot of space in my house.
Your wife can probably thanks me as well from that point of view. But I was hoping, because I was gonna touch on your character and find out where you were with it. But I'm glad you asked that one, Wesley, because I knew you'd done what's his character name? It's a fantastic name.
C.O. Bibble.
C.O. Bibble. I mean, isn't that a great name?
There was another character
on your wedding night.
There's another character from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and I think his name is, it's Wade. He's one of the guys that gets shot. Like they're sending these snow speeder type things out to go rescue Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he gets shot down. But the actor's name is Greg McLaughlin, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be rainbow in his sig, because how many McLaughlins are in the Star Wars series? One. So I'm like, I'm all in for this one. So I think I have a couple years of his. One was easier than the other, but yeah, sometimes it's fun, and you maybe go back to that same set and go, I'm gonna rainbow somebody else, or like when a set comes out, you go, all right, what are the cheap autos? And then sometimes you get lucky on lower parallels that are real cheap, and then you go, okay, I can start from like a of 25 or of 5 and work my way back, because I know. And then now it's like, no, I'm not going to pay more than X amount because I got this. And so in your head, you have your own internal comp in your head that goes. But anyway,
that's interesting. Are you still going after him, or is it just that one set?
I would say for the most part, my I've gotten a couple of Oliver Ford Davies ones, and I'm like, you know what? As far as like going after those rainbows, I know. With Greg McLaughlin, I did 2 years. I don't think he only really shows up those, but I'm like, it's fun because like if I come across him, I'm not going to turn him down. And then you go, all right. And I think like anything else we were talking about, like little sets and projects you kind of go back to. Sometimes when the Rolodex comes back up to that one, go, hey, let me just see. It's payday. There's nothing really going on here. Let's see what's on eBay. And I think that's like going back. I was showing you the Star Wars weeklies that I got from the UK, where I've been going after these for about a year, and it's a fun chase. And a lot of some of the stories that are in here, we've had you on talking about this, Ian, that they weren't in the original Marvel run. They were stories that were done elsewhere, and that the UK got them. They reprinted them every week. And this is kind of fun. Cool. It cost about $15. I've been able to find most of them, although some of these include reprints of other Marvel stories as well.
Yeah.
And what makes some of them more valuable is there's a Rocket Raccoon first appearance in the UK one that makes one of these is one of those like, all right, when I get around to it, I'll have to pay double because it's a first appearance of that, or there's a Deathlock or Adam Warlock or some of these old Watcher stories.
I've had the same with Spider-Man Comics Weekly, the issue that reprinted Amazing Spider-Man 194 is it's a gorgeous issue. It sounds to me like you've kind of scratched that itch on the CO Bibble and things like that. When it if you see one that comes up, but you no longer chase it. I mean, we were talking on text the other week, and I've chosen a character I'm going to start rainbowing from Rogue One.
Merrick.
Just because I just love the actor. He was just in that one film. He bought the farm. Spoilers, sorry. Well, he's gone. Yeah. I just really dig his cards. So, and he's, there's enough out there to make it fun. Not so much out there that's going to be that expensive. So, yeah.
Which character was it?
Merrick, Merrick, yeah, General Merrick. He's the leader of the X-Wing squadron that attacks Scarif. Is it Scarif?
Yeah, when you say blue squadron, and you go, I remember in Rogue One, we're like, hey, I didn't know there was a blue squad. Oh. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I like that character too. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I like I said, I really like the actor. He was in Foundation season 2 as well.
Okay. Yeah. He was in. I don't know. He was in something like a Netflix series
recently.
Hey, kudos for getting into season 2 of Foundation. That's not an easy series to take. You got to really show up and pay attention to that.
Oh, good grief! Yeah, well, series 3's just finished airing, and it's been renewed for season 4. It gets properly dark actually.
Do not get on your phone. You got to pay attention.
It's dense stuff. It's hard sci-fi, so it doesn't hang around. But season 1, episode 1. There's stuff, like I said, that's what caught my attention. There are visuals and things and concepts in Series 1, Episode 1 that are so bonkers out there. I was like, yes, right, I'm doing it. And like with anything, even Breaking Bad was rough in the first season. You really had to stick with it. And then it kind of clicks in Series 2. So, Foundation, much like For All Mankind, as I was talking about the other week, I was really struggling with it. And I've seen a season more since last time Keith was going, you're not getting into it. And I was like, well, I am now. I can't, I'm on it like a pig on truffles. So, but yeah. Strongly recommended. But he's the guy that I think I'm going to go after. As with all these things, it's you've got to allocate resource towards it, financial resource towards it. So he's got to get in line, unfortunately. Because James Bond, No Times to Die, and I hate to say it after everything we've been saying about Fanatics tops, I have been doing some Eternals characters because I like Eternals. That said, it's like having I don't know, a pot of instant noodles, the ones that come in the plastic tub and you just add water and all that sort of stuff. It tastes great. But it's not very satisfying, and after half an hour, you're hungry again. So
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying not to listen. I think we're all having some. I think it's fair to say that from this podcast perspective, I think we're all struggling a little bit with how different Fanatics are pushing things to the way Upper Deck pushed it. I think that's fair to say. I also think it's fair to say that so far, and I think this is evident from what we've been seeing from Star Wars Chrome as well, a lot of the innovation, ingenuity, and kind of breadth of flavour, if you like, across all the different things that Upper Deck used to do, is gone. And I don't think there's any signs of it coming back. So whilst I'm saying all that, I've still got an open mind about it. I'd like to hope I keep an open mind about it. I really want them to maybe, start getting some interesting stuff out. I don't know. What say you?
Some like original art stuff, some stuff like that.
Maybe something that's not Chrome.
Especially with they showed how much resources they have with all the extra signers they got on that that studio series, like
larger network.
They could pull in a real fancy artist for something. Yeah.
And that goes to show, it's like, for example, I haven't thought about Harry Potter for a very long time. But what interests me is you go, you know what, that's an IP that has some legs to it, that has a base that is growing up. You know, like a lot of those folks who were kids, you know, my son was, you know, he's now 24, and you go, you know what? Some of that nostalgia kind of kicks in, and you know, I don't, like I said, we talked about, you know, we try harder. It's like, yeah, put the resources of Upper Deck, the ingenuities that they come out with, and try something. You know, I wouldn't have thought about James Bond, like when you talk about the No Time to Die sets, and I was looking on even on EPAC about it, I go, oh, that's interesting. I haven't really thought about James Bond as a collectible. I know that you have a long history with those cards, but you go, okay, that's interesting, and something that might get me back to EPAC, because I still have a decent lot of cards thanks to the fire sale by Upper Deck. But you know, that was fun to chase. It was fun to kind of go, you know what, I haven't thought about Eternals, or you know, like, oh yeah, the What Ifs, or some of those where I
What
went
If
in
was
pretty
fun.
heavy. That was a fun
very
chase.
fun. Yeah.
Very fun.
And now I'm trying to figure out how I could get some of those cards physically to me without breaking the bank from ComC. But you know, put something out there where, oh, I could go to either Target or I could go to EPAC and go, great. Put it where it doesn't require a lot of work by me to, or thought about, do I really need to set aside some investment money for this? And maybe I'm not thinking in the, hey, I'm going to get it and grade it and sell it and make a ton of money off it. But it would be fun. I would just like, I think at the end of the day, when you're into non-sport, it's like, look, I'm looking for a fun chase that's affordable, that's fun. Put some things that are valuable in there. Yeah, let me chase them. Let me do some redemption. If I get these, I'll do it. But I think that's what would scratch a lot of collectors. And it doesn't mean that I have to stay with Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'll go back to my 56s whenever it's appropriate, or I go to a show where I don't have to. I'll only get the Marvel Star Wars ones that I need if I'm going to a Comic-Con, because I don't necessarily want to pay for shipping. But when I see those out there, I've got on my phone, I've got some lists, and I go, hey, if I happen to find one, great. If not, next time. It's been 50 years, I'll eventually get to it. But I'm not in some of it. I might be in a chase too, because that product may not, or those variants may not be out there for very long. But sometimes you can go back like, oh yeah, let me go back and grab some stuff from 20, 30 years ago, because eBay, it's always there, or at least it's there.
And it's nice to do some pocket money chase without having to do a mental bit of arithmetic to think, okay, can I budget in this for this month? And we'll do all that sort of thing. You know, it's like just to have something that you can just like grab. Which, Jason, I know you like that with the blasters. You know, you can just go and
it's not a divorceable offense.
Accessible. Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to say this because I made it an hour and 40 minutes last saying this, but there was a reel on Instagram that I've chewed on for weeks. I'm not going to say the entity that did it. They were talking about the whole PSA buy or collector buying, you know, PSA or the Beckett and all that. And one was talking about, you know, it's a business decision. I go with PSA, and I want to do what's best for my collection and my family. And I've chewed on that for weeks. And I said, you know what? What's best for my family is me to stop collecting. That's what's best for my family right now. See, the amount of money that I am putting in there means like and I sit there, I'm like, please get me out of this doom spiral of looking at some of these well-intentioned. I'm, you know, God be with them. You do you, kid. But I'm like, man, that's just, I just don't look at the hobby this way. And I really hope I never do.
Yeah.
Different strokes for different folks. Yeah, that's the thing.
Exactly.
There's so many different ways to do it. And just because it's not the way we agree with doesn't mean to say that it's
exactly
ghastly. It's just not the way we cut our cloth, I guess, is the best way to phrase it. Greg, I prepared something very nice in terms of the sound effects, and I've had fun with them this episode. You know,
They've been fun. They've been fun.
We've got some. I mean, listen. I started off the episode
You stuck
by
up,
calling you this.
half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Yeah. Ben called worse. I have.
I'm gonna kind of start to steer us towards landing now, Greg, by giving you a little compilation of most of the instances where the famous phrase is uttered within the movie.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you. May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you. May the force be with you, Master.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with us.
May the force be with us all.
May the force be with us all. May the force be with you, Greg.
I love that. Thank you.
I can't take credit for that, unfortunately. I ripped it from someone's YouTube video. But so as Greg very, very correctly points out in the closing commentary of every episode that he does, all copyright remains with Lucasfilm, Disney, and respective owners.
Please don't sue me.
Yes, it does.
Don't sue me. Greg, where can people find you on the interwebs?
All right. One, this has been a great conversation. It's always fun, not only when you listen to a podcast, but then you get a chance to meet. And so this is almost like been listening and participating in. So it's a privilege in order to do so. But you can generally find me on, thank you. You can find me on the socials at Rebel Base Card. Also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you are in, and I know that it's a touchy subject with Ian, but I am in the digital card apps like Star Wars Card Trader and NBA Collect and Bunt and all those at Cornfed Tech. That is my handle because it was an old blog name and I'm just not going to change it. But actually, I hope to have some folks on from Star Wars Card Trader on in the coming weeks. We're trying to iron things out. Last year, Star Wars Card Trader had its 10th anniversary, and we had a great episode with Martin from there. And that's a hoot. They do a lot of original art in that app as well. So, but yeah, you can find me most things at Rebel Base Card. And now, for those of you coming for the hardcore card talk, cool your jets a little bit because we talk about a lot of different things. I talk about cards, collecting, community. We were just downstate talking with, there was a STEM events, the science, technology, engineering, math. They call it STEAM down there. We were down there. We did our show live from there. But we also do
Very
breakfast packs. My co-host Greg Cass and I talk about the Star Wars TV shows and things. And then we've been doing second breakfast because that's what you do when you're a Hobbit. What about second breakfast? We've been going into Andor season 2.
But you're having a rewatch, aren't you? That's why
we've been at because we're doing episode 4. I think we're going to record this week where we're deep diving and we invite somebody to come on, and that's because they did the shows in arcs of 3. We didn't get a chance to
come on. Always welcome to come on.
Noted. But yeah, so we talk about a little bit about everything because I figure that my audience, the hardcore card folks, probably split a long time ago, but I do have a large catalog and I do talk about cards, and it is fun. And come on over. The listening's easy, and it's not usually just me going on and on. I have folks that are entertaining and fun and thoughtful and knowledgeable in this kind of stuff, and it's fun to hear their stories and see their journey.
And I have to say, you do the best kind of audio mixing of almost any podcast I've ever heard, probably because of your professional history and you've got good equipment and you know what works. But yeah, you want a smooth audio experience, go and check out Greg's podcast if you haven't already. It really is superb. Greg, I echo the sentiment. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Obviously, we are good friends. We kind of, I think of your podcast as the brother from another mother, if you like, because we kind of
feelings mutual,
because we kind of started around the same time.
Yes.
You started Rebel Base Card. I think a few months before the Marvel Card Collectors podcast began, which is where this podcast started. And I think you were on episode 12. I want to say 20. I want to say 23. I think, and we did a crossover episode where we did half of it on the Marvel Card Collectors podcast, and then the other half we kept rolling.
Oh, that's cool.
And we cut it at a certain point, and then the other half was on your podcast, if I remember correctly. And then, since then, I've lost count of the number of times we've crossed the streams. It's been a fair few times. So, and long may it. But you're welcome back anytime. There's always an empty chair for you on this podcast. So yeah, Wesley, thank you for making it.
I'm sorry, it's such a distraction. I'm sorry.
It's really
no
problem at all.
Enjoy. I felt like my face lit up the second I could actually hear you guys and talk. So
well, you've gone less.
Very nice to meet you.
Which is good.
Right.
Wesley, I've been meaning to tell you something actually all episode. I'm glad you're here because I can tell you now.
I am your father.
Oh, Daddy.
I've been waiting for you to call me that for a long time. Wowzers. Oh, be still my beating heart. On that note, Greg, you know how we lead out our podcast. I would be honoured if you would lead us out on this week's episode. Thank you very much for joining us.
It would be my pleasure. And everyone, Enjoy collecting.
The number of middle-aged white men popping on the screen.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
is.
That's rare air.
It's hilarious.
It's
It never
infectious.
gets old. It really never gets old. As everyone's doing the white man's overbite. Including Greg. And I never thought I'd see Greg dance. So, yeah, you learn something new every day. Wow.
Oh, yeah.